Welcome everyone, this is Silver Fox for a scoring and officiating analysis of a match from the 2015 Dallas Open. The match is between Eduardo Ramos and Samir Chantre, and it will include a 3-referee system. 2 of the referees are visible for most of the match. And Samir Chantre is located currently on the left, and he's wearing the green and yellow belt. This particular match is interesting for a few different reasons. The first reason is that it includes a few instances of the double guard pull penalty, so we can talk about that and how penalties work in general. Secondly, there's an instance where the center ref is actually overruled by his corner referees. And lastly, there's an instance where an interaction between one of the competitors and the center referee actually decides the outcome of the match. So a lot going on here, and hopefully we can learn something. So as I indicated, this is the first of a series of double guard pulls, and that rule requires that within a 20-second time period, the competitors have to make an effort to score, go for a submission attempt, or just establish a top position, or else the clock will be stopped and both competitors will be assessed a stalling penalty. So the referee's job here is to obviously start a clock at the beginning of the guard pull, and here we see the 20 seconds pass, and the referee is going to stand them up so that he can assess the first penalty associated with the double guard pull. Now, in terms of penalties, the first penalty is really kind of a verbal warning, so there's no actual scoring impact. But the second penalty will actually cost a competitor an advantage. The third penalty will cost him 2 points, and the fourth will result in disqualification. So in this particular instance where both competitors are assessed a simultaneous penalty, it could theoretically end up in a double DQ if they were to have it happen 4 times. So here's the second instance of double guard pull, and very similar to the previous, not enough action to justify within that 20-second time period. So the referee again stops the action, and he's going to separate them so that he can again indicate another penalty, this time an advantage against each competitor. So this would make the score 1-1 in terms of advantages. Ironically, the point of the double guard pull rule is to really discourage either that type of behavior during a match, or if there is a double guard pull, to encourage some kind of immediate action. These 2 competitors are not discouraged from engaging, and knowing that they have 2 penalties each, there's going to be a flurry of activity here, different from the last 2 instances. So we're going to see them engage in some grip fighting, some inversion, and it looks to me like Ramos goes for some kind of Kimura trap that once he frees his leg, he almost gets like a crucifix position and goes for the armbar but has it blocked, and ultimately ends up with his legs around the waist attempting to get the back attack. Okay, now we're going to take a look at a couple of interesting interactions between the competitors and the referee. Firstly, as they're grip fighting between Ramos's left hand and Samir's right hand, I'm going to stop the action here. We're going to see that Ramos is literally, with his right hand, he's pointing to the grip, and I'm doing a really horrible job drawing an arrow. Let me try that again. He's literally pointing at the grip, noting something either unfair or illegal that causes the referee to pause and actually take a look. Now, action has not stopped, nor has the clock, but the referee's attention was grabbed. He takes a look and does not decide to do anything about it. So that's going to be very telling for what happens from here. Now, something else interesting on the referee side happens, and we're going to watch him glance forward and then glance back, and I'm going to stop the action here. So what has happened is the referee, in his glance forward, noticed that his corner referee, who's out of the frame, has stood up and actually signaled for an advantage. So to process this fully, he looks to his second ref, who's also out of the frame, who has likewise done the same, stood up and signaled for the same advantage, related to this body lock that Ramos has secured around Samir's waist. So what's happened is they've both decided that there should be a score that he has not noticed, so they have in fact signaled him to it, and there he's gonna make the score an advantage for Ramos. Now let's talk about that for a second. My first inclination was that within the IBJJF rule set, that a figure 4 body lock is actually an advantage. But you would not score an advantage if the competitor was still in a position to effectuate a full score. And specifically what I mean is Ramos is still semi on the back here, and he has a chance of climbing onto the back and going for a scoring attack of, putting the hooks in and getting a valid 4 points. So until he no longer is threatening that full possibility of scoring, you would not score the advantage. So then what's more likely is, related to the double guard pull where I explained earlier, one of the opponents has to come to the top or put themselves in a scoring position. The corner referees are signaling that they feel that Ramos has done what it takes from the double guard pull to put himself in a scoring position and be entitled to an advantage. In fact, if this advantage was not scored, we'd go to a similar circumstance where an additional penalty was assessed and both guys would be stood up because that 20-second clock ran out again. So that's my thought process behind the scoring of that advantage. Samir's going to look to the scoreboard and see that he is now down 2-1 by advantage. So as they're continuing the grip fight, Samir's actually going to straighten his position up so that he almost gets back into more of a closed guard position. And you're going to see him square up in a moment. And then here's how the shoe is on the other foot. So now Samir's going to glance back at the referee in a moment. It's going to be related to this grip, again, between Ramos's left hand and Samir's right hand. So what he's going to do is, let me resume action here, is he's going to look back to the ref, and then he's going to do the same. He's going to actually point to the grip area and, again, try to point out something that's either unfair or illegal in some way and get the referee's attention. Now, what's a little different here about the referee's view is Samir's shoulder is a little bit obscuring the view, and he's going to have to come around the corner here, if you will, to get a better position. Now, I'll mention that Ramos, in the meantime, is under no obligation to stop doing what he's doing. Time has not been called. So he continues doing what he's doing, and in doing so, as we resume the action, he just goes for an armbar and finishes, and that brings an end to the match. Now we can clearly see Samir's disappointment, and my thought process here behind his disappointment is that here he probably felt previously when the referee's attention was drawn by Ramos for a grip, that he kind of stopped and allowed them to evaluate the situation and continue, and he just assumed that in his circumstance where he brought it to the referee's attention that there would kind of be a gentleman's agreement that they would not continue fighting, so to speak, even though the clock was running. So it was, I think, more of a gentleman's agreement. Again, Samir still indicating a problem with the grip. Ramos has got some words as well. Ultimately, by submission, Ramos wins, and the gentlemen hug it out. So here in slow-mo, we can see it's Ramos's left hand and Samir's right hand engaged somehow. We can see there that Ramos has released his grip. We can see his hand very clearly, but Samir is pointing something associated with his grip. I don't know if maybe his fingers were stuck or if his hand was maybe completely inside his sleeve. It looked like he did have a valid hold, but he was concerned about what the grip was in any event, and ultimately it cost him the match. So my advice for competitors is much like boxing: defend yourself at all times, understand you're in a competitive grappling match and you have to focus on what your opponent is doing. And secondly, try to avoid discussions with the referee. Most organizations, there's a lot of latitude about conversations with the referee during the match. Of course, keep it respectful, but understand that the federation, for instance, has rules against discussions with the ref that could result in a penalty. Samir Chantre is actually a very highly qualified referee, a very seasoned competitor, and I think it was only a small mental error that got him caught up in this situation that we see in this match. So a couple takeaways for referees is if you're using a 3-referee system, be sure to look to your corner referees often. They're there for a reason. They're there to help assist in the correct application of the rules for the match. So make sure you're looking to them often, whether you're actually scoring as the main referee or in some cases when they're actually picking up on something that you may have missed. Secondly, use competitor input within the guidelines. So I mentioned in some cases, some organizations, it may be something that a competitor is penalized for. And of course, I'm assuming that these interactions are respectful and show good sportsmanship. But realize that they're not always unfounded. The competitor could be correct in whatever they're trying to signal or communicate. So it does warrant referees' attention a lot of times. And very often it's related to safety issues. So that's it for me. This is Silver Fox again for Referee Corner. Hope you enjoyed it. Talk to you soon.